I always love the long,
Good to
awkward
go.
silence at the beginning.
Sorry. Oh, I thought I was co-hosting Wealth, Power, and Influence just now.
That was a very good inside joke.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of inside joke, someone's telling us that we were late. That's a fucking inside joke right there. Shut up and thumbs down the video, Cooper.
That's there's an even better inside joke in there. What's up, Cooper? What's up, William, Josh, David, and Mama Messina is here.
Oh, I've got some viewer mail while people fall in. I'll just start it off. Twitter DM. Are you a homosexual? Okay, this man can help you. Contact him. And there's a link for a Twitter doctor. A couple days later, I'm blocking you too. By the way, active thieves, liars, sorceries users, and active homosexuals go to hell. It's in Revelation. I actually lie. I actually lie some, so I need to repent, but I am blocking you and Matt, so you can't block me first. Strong move. I will probably still listen a little, as I like your post-libertarian ideas. Thank you, sir. But yeah, unrepentant homosexuals go to hell, just like people who practice witchcraft. Anyways, I do not want you or anyone else to go to hell. It is very sad. But yeah, blocking you and Matt. Jason, I think, already blocked me. He got me first. Now, if you are listening, sir or madam, I wasn't an unrepentant homosexual until I read this, and now I think it's too late because I could read this just over and over again. This is a pretty awesome, just bunch of messages right here. You sound like you might be. I don't think you're like a native English speaker. Are you Russian, sir or madam? Like it's I think it's a sir, but it's pretty cool. I checked out the doctor's page on Twitter, by the way. I don't think he can help me.
That's what I was going to ask you.
But yeah, if you're in the chat, yeah, this is for you. You've done it, unfortunately.
I hope you guys can accept the fact that you're the fan of an unrepentant homosexuals podcast.
Who's this saying it's me, Francesca Messina? Mom. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna read this and just try because I felt bad because just like, man, you seem pretty bothered by this. If you're bothered by this, there's probably a whole list of things that bother you. So let me take one off the list. I was gonna kind of come on and be like, yeah, it's kind of a bit, it's ironic or whatever. And I was gonna do it while throwing on. I found the gayest shirt that I have. I didn't know that it was cut like this when I bought it 1,000 years ago, and I wore it like one time because I had put it on. I thought it was like a regular ass, tank top or whatever, and I had really never worn it since. Probably a fucking lie, by the way, but
makes for good radio.
Yeah. I've probably worn it several times, but not more than 10. And I also probably have one in purple, and I've probably worn that twice. But but like I would just
those are for special occasions.
You can say that again. But yeah, I just figured I'd throw this on because I was actually thinking, man, it's kind of hot in here, and I don't want to, I know this podcast trend of no sleeves, is kind of, but if I was going to be reading this fan mail, I figured it would kind of be a good sort of ironic excuse, and I was going to come on here and just try to console him a little bit and just, let him know that's all kind of a joke and just for funsies on the internet. And, but then just the way that he wrote it and at the end kind of lumping me in with Jason Stapleton. I mean, sir, you're going to make a homosexual out of me yet. Unrepentant indeed. Active homosexual.
I'm trying to find the message he sent me.
Oh,
I'm genuinely bummed. Like, I think he's probably, screw the rest of you guys. I think he's probably my favorite of our listeners.
Oh yeah.
No question.
Yeah. Not even close. No. Yeah. He said something above and I couldn't find it, but he referenced something about, he messaged, kind of talking, just trying to see where you at faith wise and all this stuff. And like, oh, it's kind of a long answer. I don't, and then, It's like we have a podcast about it, in fact. But like there was some line in there about listening to Jewish podcasts or something like that. And I think it means the two Orthodox priests or whatever. I mean, that's a real Protestant-y thing to say, isn't it?
Right.
Isn't it? Like, I mean, just anything Old Testament, just like you and your Jew podcast.
Yeah, you freaking Jews.
Pretty fucking funny. I don't know. I like it.
I just realized that the message he sent me wasn't the first. He sent me a whole bunch. I didn't even realize this.
Yeah.
He, the first thing he called you was, he said, "Thanks for all your thoughtful, practical discourse with your long-haired Jim hippie-looking friend." You're the hippie-looking one.
Yeah, what the fuck? See, he's not American, because if you were American, you would know that Matt is way more of a fucking hippie than me.
Then he had a whole bunch of other. Then later he called you my long-haired BLM co-host. Haha, no, I know you are staunch anti-communist. Jason Staple. Maybe Jason Staple will let you in his digital nomad home in St. Kitts or something if he bribes the immigration officer to let you in.
Yeah, this guy rules. Are you kidding me?
Oh, this is amazing. Oh, he's all bent out of shape.
Reveal yourself in the chat.
Is that guy gay or not? I assume he is. I assume he is, since he is not married and has long hair like some kind of weird hippie. I can't believe I just found this.
Man, fuck whatever we were going to be talking about today. This guy rules.
Oh, and then, here's the last one. All caps. Okay, I guess you are both not Christians. I think one of you is gay, and you are vulgar in laughing at gay jokes. Go check the Bible and see what it says about vulgarity and homosexuals and dirty jokes. I still like some of your thoughts on post-libturn. But yeah, you guys are about as Christian as a Christian nightclub goer drunk and lusting away with a Christian nightclub girl in a back seat. Is that guy gat or not?
Dude, 100% honestly, I wasn't, but now, I don't know, man.
Like, just to continue the bit, you've got to keep the bit going.
I'm just in love. God, that's funny.
And it just, like, I don't know if you said it, but just for everyone else's sake, the guy's name is Smog the Golden.
Oh, okay. We're going public with this. Okay.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
That was just... That was good. What's up with the rest of you guys?
I know. Why can't you send us weird shit like that?
All we get is one guy, and then he blocks us.
Yeah, I know. Well, he's just playing hard to get. Maybe he's an active homosexual who's got
homosexual. Amy says, all this laughing, but we still haven't gotten an answer. Is you gat or is you ain't?
Amy, you should watch from the beginning. All right.
All righty. Well, that was a good 10 minutes we burned there.
If you fear that you may be gat and you want to try some alternative medicinal treatments to cure yourself of this ailment for the sake of your salvation, I recommend that you head over to palomaverdecbd.com. Fantastic website run by our good friends Carlos and Vanessa Abelar, where they provide only the finest CBD products in various flavors, such as pink lemonade. And so you might be saying, various flavors of what? And I would say to you, I already said it's pink lemonade, so it could be a suppository for all that matters, right? It's pink lemonade. You head over to palomaverdecbd.com. You can see their wide selection of products. They may or may not offer suppositories. Carlos
is in the chat.
They may or may not offer suppositories. When and if they do, I'm going to be ordering several and sending them to our good friend whose name I don't exactly remember, but the gentleman who has dominated the first 20 minutes of this podcast. and I'll be sending them directly to him autographed. And when I do, I will be using promo code KING so that I can save 25% off on my purchase.
Bingo, bango, bongo. That was well done.
Thank you.
You segued into that. That was like you have become the king of the segue.
I just wish that I could see all the thumbs down in person. Like
there's only one.
Those are rookie numbers, guys.
Yeah.
We got to get those numbers up. We really got to get those numbers up.
We've got it says right now we've got 20 people watching. We've got 5 thumbs up and only 1 thumbs down. So number 1, just not enough interactions, period. But number 2, that's a really, really bad balance. We want equity here. We want all things to be equal.
Fundito shots.
So give us some more of these thumbs down. Josiah, what's up, buddy? He says alternative time zones, alternative medicines got me all fucked up today, fam. What alternative time zones? Did I miss something?
Yeah, I when you post these on Twitter, do you put you say Pacific time?
Usually, yeah. Today, I see what he's saying. So today I said EST.
Really?
Yeah. I did it because of what you said.
Yeah, I shamed Matthew into because I don't acknowledge Pacific West Coast time or anything like that. So at the very least I'll put it in like quotes. So he said, "What is the quotes? Is it my time or your time?" It's like, yeah, it's Pacific because it's not real time. Eastern Standard Time. It doesn't matter where you live. You go by Eastern Standard Time. Didn't the Roman Empire do that?
Go by Eastern Standard Time?
No. What empire did that? Well, they should have. What empire kept the time consistent throughout? Like there was no. Oh fuck!
I've never heard this before. This is interesting.
Yeah, so it was just like middle of the night at 7 in the morning somewhere. That's the way it should be with Eastern Standard Time, my opinion.
That would be trippy. Just thinking about that.
Okay, thank you.
It was Rome. Huh. Interesting. See, you guys actually got to learn something. So you learned, number 1, that our most amazing fan blocked both of us tragically.
And Jason Stapleton. No, Jason got him first.
Yeah, Jason got him first.
That figures. You got to wake up pretty early in the motherfucking morning to block Jason Stapleton. I will say that. I might do it just to announce on the show that I blocked Jason Stapleton.
Just do it right now.
And that he needs to stay. I don't have it in my heart that I can block Jason Stapleton.
You had your first interaction, and now things are
me and Jason. Yeah, you might have seen me and Jason flirting on Twitter a little bit. It's not a big deal.
More unrepentant homosexuality. I think that this guy is just demonstrating the toxicity of the patriarchy. That he has a distorted view of gender roles, and he is imposing that distorted view upon you. And I think we reject that.
You don't think that a straight man can wear his hair up in a pineapple like he just got done watching someone sink in a weird spaghetti strap tank top and a neon blue headset, sir?
Okay, I'm getting a little uncomfortable now.
I resent that.
I've got some toxic patriarchy in my background as well. Okay, so last bit of housekeeping. Our supporting listeners group is up and running. It's all good to go. It's worked. We've got multiple people who have progressed through the new automation from Subscribestar to Discord, and it's automatic. It's set up, and it'll all automatically do that, and it's all slick and everything. So technology is fantastic for lots of things, and it sucks for lots of things, but it's fantastic for some things. And that's one fantastic thing that it did is it connected our Subscribestar and the Discord. So you can go to Discord or go to subscribestar.com/kingpilled, subscribestar.com/kingpilled. You can join the supporting listeners group, get added to the Discord channel, and join the conversation. One thing, I'll give you a little tease. There was a fantastic listener-made meme placed in our meme channel, because we have a meme channel. Shout out my wife, Amy. And someone made a fantastic meme comparing two different podcasts. We'll just say that. And I wanted to post it publicly, but I didn't because I don't want to make it seem like there's antipathy or antagonism or anything here. I don't want to like shots fired at anybody because that's not what I'm trying to do. I just got a kick out of it because I thought it was funny and I thought it was a funny sentiment coming from someone who listens to our show. So if you guys want to see that fantastic meme, then just go join the Sporting Listeners group, subscribestar.com/kingpilled, and you can go check out that meme channel. I posted it in the Praxis chat, Steven, if you haven't seen it.
Oh no, I saw it. Yeah. What happens in the Supporting Listeners group tends to stay in the Supporting Listeners group.
Yeah. Except for that one meme that I pulled out and shared in another private chat. But that other private chat is at least as private as the
yeah, exactly. It's definitely more private than the other one.
Yeah.
Mathematically it works.
Okay. So I think that was it. I think that was all the little bits of housekeeping we had here. So the first thing I wanted to do here for you guys today is I wanted to play you this clip that Amy sent me. I'll just play it for you. This is perfectely indicative of the spirit of the modern left. This is the heart of the spirit of the modern left, and I think you guys will agree when you hear it. So let me get this screen share up, and this one. And play.
Alexander Stein.
Hello, my name is Alexander Stein, and I'm calling from Highland Park. And the reason I'm here today is we need to take a page, Mayor Johnson, out of New York's book, and we got to mandate vaccines because right now I am losing housekeepers left and right because, listen, every time the service sends a housekeeper to my house and they test positive for coronavirus, I can't have them work around my kids. I have 2 trans kids in my house, both on puberty blockers, and you realize they are vulnerable. They're immunocompromised. We need more people vaccinated. I voted for Joe Biden, so I'm happy that we're getting more migration to Dallas, but until we mandate these vaccines, we're going to continue to get people sick. We have to get creative. In New York, they're giving $100 plus a free hamburger. Here in Dallas, maybe in the urban centers, we give free KFC. We give free tacos in the Latin markets because the Latin markets, I'm telling you, I've had multiple housekeepers die from the Delta variant, and that is so hard on my children, Decca and Dalix, because what a 9-year-old, when they lose their favorite housekeeper and they lose that pupusa recipe, when the service sends the next worker, that housekeeper doesn't make the same recipe. So my kids are going through just a total turmoil. So we have to get creative. And we have to go into the gay community, like a creative idea. Since you're the first openly gay mayor of Dallas, we ought to do Mayor Johnson's Free Johnson & Johnson, because the gay community would like the double entendre. And then we could also do like a drag queen story time where we could have, free vaccines. We could have drag queens reading to children. And then we could just have this, open air market of cleanliness and not a bunch of people with germs. Because what's happening now is we have Governor Abbott who is going to make it that everybody's going to get sick and die of Delta unless we get these vaccines, and my vaccine won't work unless you are vaccinated. So we need to stick needles in arms. We need vaccine mandates. You shouldn't be able to shop, you shouldn't be able to work, and you shouldn't be able to go to any of these sports games, especially Texas high school football, without your vaccination. And we need you, being a gay icon like yourself in the gay community, we need you, Mayor Johnson, to offer this, because we cannot protect these people without the vaccine. Not enough people are getting it, and now everybody that doesn't have the vaccine is making me sick. I don't deserve to be sick. I followed the rules. I'm doing everything right. And until you make vaccines mandatory, I'm going to keep on losing housekeepers left and right. And I just can't do that because that is so hard on my family. It's not fair to my family. So until vaccines are mandated, we're going to keep on having people get sick. We're going to keep on having people die. And I'm telling you, it's easier to get my 9 and 11-year-old on puberty blockers than it is to give them a COVID-19 vaccine. We have to make it okay for 5-year-olds to 12-year-olds to get vaccinated. We need more vaccines now. Vaccines are the way out of this. And until you make it so we can't live in this society without a vaccine, you're going to have all these people with their fake vaccine cards and their anti-maskers like Governor Abbott ruining everything for us. And let me tell you something. I'm not going to stand here and just let everybody live their life while I got my vaccine. And I was sick for 2 weeks after my vaccine, and And I did it because that is for the greater good. And sadly, we have a bunch of people that aren't willing to mandate these vaccines. So we have a bunch of cheaters. So please, Mayor Johnson & Johnson's free Johnson & Johnson.
Your time is
do
up.
it in Cedar Springs.
That's pretty
Thank
great.
you. Karen Hughes.
Karen is next. That's perfect.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
There's some, just watching the reactions in the chat here. A bunch of people had heard it before. I hadn't heard it before, but I think there's an interesting psychological test that happens when, like the second that Matthew played this for me, when he said hello, my name is, I kind of started like chuckling, and then. There's people in the chat here that's like, I don't think this is real. I think there must be some measure of just like what percent kind of an asshole you are, because my senses are just so honed in to that kind of behavior that I could hear a timbre in his voice. It's like, oh, you're a dickhead. I got you. Matthew, he started to say some stuff, and I was just like, I don't know, this might be fake. Matthew's just such a sweet boy. And he's in there just like, I don't think this is legitimate. This is not a legitimate phone call, Andrew.
When I first heard it, I was listening and I was like, this is really believable. Like, this is really there are people who are actually like this, and the people who are like this would be the ones most likely to call and leave a message like that. So I'm like, if this is a troll, it's really good. And then it was at the point where he said my kids, I can't remember what the I forgot what the name of the kids were.
Decca and Daleks. I think.
Decca and Daleks. Yeah. That was the point where I was like, oh yeah, it's definitely a troll. But what stood out, like, so the way I take these things is like, I'll encounter the thing and I'll appreciate it for what it is, and then I want to go zoom out as far as I can and figure out what like the essence of it is, or I want to tie it into a bigger lesson. And by the way, just so you know, I unilaterally made this decision that very shortly this show is going to become a personality typing show. We're going to talk about Jungian cognitive functions and all that kind of stuff. And we're gonna absolutely obliterate the rest of the audience that we have. Just gonna
finally something in my wheelhouse.
Push them all away. Yeah. Anyways, I've been sitting here listening to stuff the last couple of days, and so I've been doing a lot of like evaluating the way that I think and trying to understand the way that I the way that I approach cognition. And so I was just thinking about that, how every time I get one of these things, I'm kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I want to zoom out and look at it from the most, I guess, the most zoomed out perspective possible. Do want to draw out some kind of a timeless truth from it. So what really got me about it is that the guy who did this perfectly encapsulated all of the contradictions in the type of people that actually believe this sort of thing. And they're very, very strange contradictions. And I think that there's a reason for this. We sort of see this thing now and we're just kind of like, whatever, it's just, we like when we see people who are actually like that, we might be kind of horrified or whatever, but we see them and we're just kind of like, whatever, it just is kind of sort of commonplace now. But if you took someone like that, you described that video, if you took it and you played it for someone 20 years ago, they would be like, this is the most absolutely beyond insane thing I've ever heard. It wouldn't even be funny to someone like that because it wouldn't be remotely believable. Because each of these concepts has such a fundamental like paradox. There's like a paradox to it. And the one I think that's at the heart of it is the fact that this sort of person doing this would not be a lower class person. This would not be someone who works a 9-to-5 job. This would not be someone who lives on the bad part of town. The only person who would ever be even bothering to make a call like this, like for the actual real person that he's parodying, would be a wealthy white person, wealthy white woman. Those would be the only people who would make a call like this. But as I was thinking about this, I was realizing that that's beginning to change. You could almost start to see people who are not wealthy white women doing something like this. You could kind of imagine it. You could imagine a guy who is very much like an unrepentant homosexual. He has the personality of one. You could imagine him doing something like this. And I think what this demonstrates is the way that culture follows the people who currently wealthy white women occupy this strata. They occupy this archetype in the culture, and they're the ones that drive the rest of the culture. Everything else revolves around them and what they want. The Karen meme. Karen runs the world. And so all these archetypes that wouldn't have even occurred or been funny to someone 20 or 30 years ago because they would be so unbelievable. They've now passed through that Karen archetype, and the rest of society is starting to adapt to it, where it's becoming more and more widely believable. It's affecting more and more people.
There's there's something that I'd really love to talk about, but it would be for sure a supporting listeners discussion, talking about how certain cultures that certain other cultures have adopted and that are unrecognizable to people who grew up when certain cultures were a lot cooler and a lot less fucking lame than they are right now. But what I can say is that, like, Ashley used to be a classy name.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I see where you're going with this.
Anyone listening to this, like, Ashley, and maybe it's even outdated now, but like Ashley is like a go-to for, like, if you were gonna come up with like a character who was a stripper, and you weren't gonna, it just like the go-to would probably be Ashley if you didn't want to think about it at all, or it would have been even 5 or 10 years ago or whatever. But man, a couple of generations before that, Ashley was only, a name that was found like in aristocratic circles and stuff like that. But that's what happens with like names, and it's not limited to names.
Right.
Other pieces of the culture, this is just
the whole culture
down.
drives this way. The whole culture is driven by the wealthy white women of the culture. I imagine that as you get into the more and more of the fringes or the other aspects of human experience, that archetype is embodied by other people who aren't necessarily wealthy white women. But I think ultimately it's going to be with the class is always going to be women. The women are always going to be the ones who are at the heart of the culture. The women are the one who direct the values of the culture, because ultimately the women hold what the men want. So the men will give the women what they want so that they can get what they want.
Conversation.
Exactly. Conversation, a listening ear, a shoulder to lean on. Exactly. So it's always going to be women. And then just by default, it's always going to be wealthy women. So that's going to be doesn't matter what the makeup of your culture is. This is a dynamic that's going to, it's going to be present in any sort of human culture because of that, the nature of the relationship between men and women, and then the distribution of resources. So everybody else, this is where you get you pull in Girardian mimetic theory, and people desire what they see other people desire. And low status people desire, everyone desires status. So low status people will desire what high status people want, because they'll like, I'm going to mimic the high status person. And then if I do that, if I embody that ritual, if I embody that tradition, then eventually I will become a high status person. But then where do the high status people, where do they get their values? Where do they derive them? How do they that tank top is something else, man. Where did they, the high status people, this is if you read Thaddeus Russell's book, the high status women will, or the high status people, and it's usually women, will get their cultural or influences from the fringes. They go all the way out to the fringes, because this is the same dynamic. You get this intra-female dynamic where the one woman doesn't want to look like all the rest. She wants to stand out for like breeding purposes. She wants to be the one that stands out from the rest of them. So she'll go find something that's unique and she'll make it hers. She'll own it. And she always will get that. Like, she's not going to find it from the rest of the high status people. So she has to go to the low status people to find the thing that she's going to pull up. She's going to make it bougie. She's going to embody it herself. And then all the other women will be like, oh, well, we want to be like Ashley over here. And so they'll start mimicking her. And that's how the culture keeps winding its way forward. So this whole thing, this whole clip that I played here is, I think that this is evidence. The fact that this is as effective as it is, and the fact that it, you can imagine more than just a wealthy white woman doing it. I think this is evidence of this pattern happening. This is evidence of this process, and it also is. It's once you recognize this process, you realize that it's inevitable. That you can't do anything to stop it. You can't eliminate it. This is like a fundamental a key component in the mind of the human species. It's something that you just can't get rid of. So the desire to get rid of it will create it. But this is a really interesting point here that John makes in the chat. He said the real power players play the Karens and other white women into controlling the rest of the population, and that's exactly correct. All of the like all advertising, you talk to any advertising person, virtually all advertising is directed at women, because women tend to be the primary for the vast majority, like all retail, the vast majority of buying decisions are made by women. And I would say, even given the male female dynamic, I would say that even the ones that aren't directly made by women are influenced by women, because ultimately, even like single guys are still striving to do things to change their position with respect to women, whether it's to make themselves attractive to them or to improve with a specific one or whatever. That's ultimately the thing that drives the majority of what men do. Bruce says, "What are you, evolutionary biologist or Christians?" What's that?
The majority of men, maybe.
You got to get the
shit,
like little like finger snap thing. Bruce said, "Wait, are you evolutionary biologists or Christians?" Yes. And then Nicholas said 80% of consumer spending done by women. That's a true fact. Yeah, there you go. So Kindred says the devouring mother is the dominant animating force in the West. Yeah, the devouring mother is what we're seeing today. With the nanny state driven by the devouring mother stepping into the gap where the masculine stepped away. The masculine men dropped the ball and they betrayed their responsibility, and women stepped in, as women will do. When the men aren't there to solve the problems that men are supposed to solve, the women will start doing it. And when you do that, then the women are no longer doing the things that the women are supposed to do. And this becomes a self-perpetuating cycle that will ultimately upset the society completely. This is why you get the good times create weak men create bad times create strong men create good times. That's that cycle. And right now we're in a weak men created bad times. That we're at that point of the cycle. And so if we're gonna survive through this crisis and into the next high, then it's going to require strong men. It's going to require strong men to step back up and to bear their burdens, bear their responsibilities, and then from there, women will naturally the men who do that just by default. It's like a law of nature that the men who do that will rise to the top inevitably. Maybe not that individual man, but that archetype of the man will rise to the top. So naturally, ultimately, inevitably, on a long enough time scale, he'll outcompete the rest of them, and the women will desire him, and then your society will cycle right back around again. So this sounds like very much like Jordan Peterson kind of stuff, and he was one of the first people to really get me thinking about the male female sexual dynamics like that.
Well, the problem is that these men these days are bitch made. You need to have a strong archetype of a man's man. You can't have these mincy queens running around and thinking that women aren't going to try to dominate. Of course they are. You need someone who has a little bit of bass in their voice, for goodness sakes.
It's just getting worse by the day. It's just getting so much more of a cartoon.
I love how Cyprian heard that and thought it was amazing.
What?
Did you not know that?
No, what?
Cyprian, Vin.
Yeah.
He heard your Jordan Peterson impression and thought it was amazing.
He did?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I missed that.
What's up, Mark Claire?
Wait,
speaking of Mark Claire,
when did that occur? When did
I don't remember.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've had so many interactions with him lately. I don't remember which one of them.
No, buddy. You don't got to tell me, man. I mean, there's a bottle of wine back there that I split. I don't like to talk about it, but I split it with Kurt. You guys probably know him as Curtis Yarvin. He used to be Mench's Moldbugger. Yeah, actually, you want to know
You're a good buddy, Kurt.
I was scrolling through I didn't have COVID, but that has nothing to do with what I was going to say. I was scrolling through my feed, my just YouTube in general, and I saw that there's an episode of King Pilled when I was unable to do it. I didn't have COVID, but you had fucking Pete Quinones on and Cyprian, and it's just like, man, you sure you didn't want to bring on Tom Brady just to cover all your base, get some of the athleticism covered? Because I mean, what a hole to fill. You know what I mean? But Pete Quinones and goddamn Cyprian.
See, that's what when you leave, when you're not here, that's the sort of bind that you put me in, because one Cyprian and one Pete Quinones adds up to one Steven. So when you leave, that's the sort of drop off we're dealing with.
Yeah,
that's what you do. You can't leave the show. Honestly,
when I saw it, I was just scrolling through, and I just saw
You were on enough.
I saw fucking Pete's face, and then it started autoplay, and then fucking Vin popped in, and I was just like, it's like, what the fuck?
That was fun. That was a really good conversation.
Pretty good. I haven't listened. It just happened last night, sort of in the middle of the night, kind of. I just leave my phone playing in the middle of the night, and that was my experience. So
you didn't even realize it until last night?
No.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I was on another planet for a week.
Whoa, Poppy Libs.
I didn't have COVID.
Whoa. Chat's getting spicy.
Yeah. Every once in a while, Andrew will come out with something that just out of the blue will really just take you back a little bit.
Speaking of Pete Quinones, speaking of Pete Quinones, shout out Pete going on Tim Pool, and he didn't get to talk as much as I wanted him to, but that was a good first appearance. We'll say that it was a good first appearance. Can't wait for the next one. And then just so you guys know, if you didn't already, on Friday I did a live stream over on Andrew's channel with Popular Liberty and Pete Quinones, and we had a really interesting conversation over there. So go check that out. And then, did you have something else you wanted to say before we launch into the rest of this?
No, I was gonna segue it by saying, speaking of Andrew, somehow I don't know, my mouth just started moving, and I was gonna hope that it got me somewhere.
Oh no,
good.
Words are coming out. Be good what I say. Okay, so if you guys, so you guys should know that Mark Claire, as I was saying a minute ago, speaking of Mark Claire, that he hosted a conversation between my good buddy Jason Stapleton and
mine too,
and Dave Smith. And Douglas says he had Karen watching Yarvin on Tucker over the weekend. What did she think? What was I'm assuming that if you're saying that it was she's kind of normie, and she's not she hasn't heard of Yarvin before. So I'd be really curious to hear what her reaction was.
Can't you
go ahead and
can't you just envision a future where you're walking down the street and or if streets exist, presumably, and then it's 10, 20 years from now or something like that, and you just have sort of an upper class lady, saying, to her 11-year-old daughter, something like that, Jaquanda, you really just need to take the clear pill. That would just be, God, that would just be perfect.
Imagine where the rest of the society would be by the time we got to that point.
Dare to dream. I won't know, but yeah.
The machine keeps grinding forward.
Oh God.
Yeah, Jason Stapleton, Dave Smith were on Mark Claire, and they had an interesting conversation where they debated basically kind of what we've been talking about for several months now. They talked about the future of liberty and whether the best way to spend your time is by going the political route, or whether you'd be better off doing what Jason and I talk about on Wealth, Power, and Influence, which is control the source of your income, invest in developing rare and specialized skills, make that income mobile, and then connect yourself with a community of people who are like-minded. So Dave obviously represents the pro political activism side, and Jason represents the other side. And the two of them had an interesting conversation. They didn't badge it necessarily as a debate, even though it was kind of obvious that it was going to be a bit of a debate.
It's kind of a debate, Mark.
Yeah.
Mark, if you're in here. Mark says he comes in here just to get name dropped. Well, Mark.
Mark.
Kind of a debate, buddy.
Mark. Okay, there we go.
There you go.
So there was obviously the way we titled the show today, why spreading the message of liberty is counterproductive. That was actually the second title. At first when we were putting it in there, I put what did I say? Why spreading the message of liberty is a bad thing. And what I was telling Steven was I want to be provocative because I want to get people's attention and I kind of want to rattle them a little bit, but I want to thread the needle just right so that you get you get someone to see it that disagrees with it, and they're like, it's so far outside of what they would consider to be an acceptable thing to believe that they're just like, oh, I'm not even gonna bother arguing with that person. That person's
Right.
just out of their mind. That's how I want to affect those kinds of people, the type of people who are going to come argue with us about it. What you don't want is to get it to the point where they see it and they're like, what this motherfucker, and they sit down and they start hammering out their response. That's what I'm trying to avoid. So I was like, you know what? We'll put a big word in the title, and that will push off most of the people that I don't want to argue with. So yeah, Amy says the best part of the debate was having wealth, power, and influence said at least 75 times. That was like, it's been crazy over the last 2 or 3 months now, just randomly hearing people talking about other stuff, and they say stuff about wealth, power, and influence, or stop being poor. Those two phrases I keep hearing all over the place when people aren't even necessarily talking about the show. It's cool to hear it being a kind of seeping into people's subconsciouses.
Mm-hmm.
You were about to say something?
No, I wasn't. I'm just over here. I was just playing with my hair, thinking of Vin complimenting my Jordan Peterson impression.
Okay, so I wanted to play a clip real quick here from that conversation, and then we'll use that kind of as a jumping off point for the rest of this conversation as we make the case that why we believe that spreading the message of liberty is what everyone says. We have to spread the message. We have to wake people up. Why we believe that's not just it's not just
it's on an automatic good. It's on an automatic positive.
Right. It's kind of just taken for granted that it's like, well, wouldn't you say that's a good thing? People don't even have to ask themselves, well, obviously it's a good thing to spread these ideas. And that ended up kind of being the point at which the conversation with Jason and Dave, it kind of went up to that point, and that's where they kind of were like, yeah, we basically see eye to eye, agree to disagree, and that's what's up, Mark Metz?
We're taking it from first principles.
Are you Lex Friedman? Is that?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know I don't know any of these. Like, I don't know. I don't want to get into like a little aside here, but like all those words that everyone uses when they argue, I don't know what any of them mean. And it's just weird that it's the opposite. It's the opposite of like how I learned how to argue, because like, it just someone kind of saying, that's an ad hominem. You've lost the argument. It's like, well, your mother's a whore. Is that an ad hominem? Because because like, I think I just won the argument. Oddly
It's
enough,
like people think this is
it's
debate
so
class.
backwards. I just they're kind of I don't know. They're kind of annoying. But I don't know. I guess it's like enlightenment arguing in many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that enlightenment arguing.
Yeah. And if you kind of reject I don't know, if you reject this idea that like we're inherently like logical fucking creatures, which I don't know, look at any part of like life in human history, then like what's the point in you're kind of just like LARPing. You're playing in the framework that like this whole logic thing matters at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like I don't know. I mean, if you grow up in that, if you exist in that time period, and I don't know, it's like speaking a dead language kind of, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, we can have an argument where, and I can kind of do the mathematical proof thing to sort of support my idea and all that stuff, and I don't know, I can Google what Mott Bailey means so I can say that in an argument, and like all that shit. It's like you have the capacity to be able to do it, but the whole idea is it's like, man, I kind of don't think any of this shit matters.
Yeah.
There's a specific part, and I'll shut up, but there's a specific part in this conversation that I don't know if you're going to play it or not, which made me kind of realize this kind of idea of what I'm talking about.
Mm.
But yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
Go ahead, play that clip.
Jose Galison in the chat. What's up, buddy? And the Marks are fighting over whether Mark with a C or Mark with a K is more legitimate.
Mark with a C. I mean, I don't know. It's just I'm partial to Mark with a C, but Mark has become.
Are you going to bully poor Mark Metz?
No. Well,
you're cyberbullying, Steven.
There's good news for Mark Metz. Mark with a K. Is that once you become a close enough friend
Z's are even better than C's?
I always how I indicate a very close personal friendship with somebody. I shorten the name. Mark Claire did me a solid recently, and so now he's not Mark anymore. He's Mar. And Mark Metz, you could be the same. We could get rid of that pesky K. We could make it a non-issue. How about that?
I feel like there's not. No, that's too much of a stretch. I was gonna say there's like a joke here where like Mar means C, and then like the Mar is dropping the C, and I'm not the one that does the jokes here.
I dropped the C a long time ago, if you know what I mean.
With an X is more legit than C or K.
or I picked it up. That was very funny. Sorry to step on that. Whoever said that, that's very funny. Giovanni. Oh yeah, you goddamn Italian communist.
Mark sounds like a stoner thought. Yeah, very, very well may be. Aaron says Dave still hasn't addressed what the goal is after they wake people up. It's been my critique the whole time, and no one from the MC has an answer. Yeah,
we're gonna get there.
We're gonna get there. Yeah,
we are gonna play this fucking clip at some point.
Yep. We'll play it here now. We'll just do it. Real quick, I just want to say, Jose said Jason led with a bad argument about the authoritarianism angle, but really won the exchange overall. I didn't know where he was going with the authoritarianism argument. I wasn't for the first 20 or 30 minutes.
Trolling.
I was. Yeah,
I thought it was kind of like walking up to like a cat and just kind of like booping it on the nose or something like that. So the cat's like, "Wait, you just fucking, what the fuck did you just do?" And then because obviously he proceeded to.
Maybe it was a troll. Maybe it was. Jason isn't usually really the one to duke. He's kind of a what you see is what you get sort of guy.
Yeah, but maybe
he could be turning over a new leaf.
Well, also, I feel like I don't know, like a tiger probably does some pretty clever shit when it's hunting or whatever, and like if you like talk about it, it's like, oh, the tiger doesn't really know that it's doing it because it's a fucking tiger. But I just feel like Jason's
natural
such a
predator.
Yeah, exactly. Such a fucking cyborg that just like it's just I don't know. I'm just gonna start talking about authoritarianism for a little bit. Confuse this guy, let him drink some more or something. Because Dave had kind of like, what the fuck are you talking about face?
Dave had Tucker Carlson face.
He made Dave have Tucker face. Yeah, that was good.
But overall, yeah, I agree that there was a there was a bunch of stuff that I was like, I really wish, or I hope Jason's going to say this, but he probably won't. And he hit so many of those things that I was thinking of. He basically, there was just one point. There was one point where he and I, where I would have said something different, and we'll get into that. So this one clip here I wanted to play, I think really just kind of gets at the heart of, it kind of gets at the heart of, I think, the difference between their two positions. I think this was the point. This was the main sticking point where they did not agree. So it's just kind of dropping in real quick. But I should probably take it off of 1 3/4 speed for people's sake. I'll put it on 1 1/4 just so we don't take forever to get through this. But I think the clip itself is like 3.5 minutes. So let's share this. Chrome tab.
Thank God that we support the Lions of Liberty on Patreon, so we don't have to feel bad about playing 3% of their podcast.
I think they probably appreciate us exposing it to all of their listeners who have already seen it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll share this big boy here. And all right. Say something
Mark
right away if
like
you don't
hot
hear anything.
secretary.
Yeah, Mark.
God.
Why don't you get his number or something?
Yeah. What the hell? How did I not? Huh. Okay. Man, how am I going to be able to concentrate? All right, I'll close my eyes.
I can't come up with any other thing to keep dragging it out, so I guess I'll just hit play.
What I'm saying is I think they are in conflict. I think that working in politics is counterproductive to your own liberty. I think it wastes time, your most valuable asset, on things that don't expand your own liberty and freedom. I think it is equivalent to eating shit all day and then going and trying to work out. You might as well just work out and eat healthy and skip the politics altogether. In 10 years, you'll be 100 times freer than you will be if you invest that time in politics.
I have a question for Jason. Just on that note, if spending time in politics is a waste of time and when you should be out building wealth and that thing, I'm just kind of curious why you're spending time criticizing the people that are getting into politics. Do you not see that as a waste of time, or do you really think that your influence can pull them out of that situation, out of what you see as a waste of time, and to be more productive? Is that why you've been focusing, at least pretty lately in the last couple of weeks, so much on being critical of the Mises Caucus? Why have you gone on the attack so much?
The Mises Caucus has just been the guys who've been the most vocally opposed to my position that politics is a waste of time, and so I've just been pointing out they've been talking about, we've got this movement going, we've got momentum, and no, you don't. You really don't. I know it might feel that way because y'all are there together, but if you look at the numbers, it's kind of like the hysteria around COVID and children and vaccinations. It's like, it's not a threat to kids. I don't know what numbers you're looking at, but there's no measuring stick by which you could say children are at risk for COVID, right? Same thing's true for the Mises. I don't care what you're feeling right now. You're not having momentum. You're not in a movement. It's a small group of people inside an ineffective party that are starting to gain a little headway. Okay, fine. That's great. The reason that I'm such an advocate for this, and it's not on accident, is because I happen to believe my vision of the future is that we are in a very rapidly changing economy, right? One where blockchain technology, smart contracts, and cryptocurrencies, as well as automation and artificial intelligence, is going to change the way we live, work, and communicate very fast. I don't think people really understand how quickly that change is coming. We're talking about, we can foresee in the next decade and into the banking system as we know it through the issuing of smart contracts and autonomous organizations. Right? This is something that banks are already talking about and trying to figure out what they can work with. You're talking about millions and millions and millions of people who will be out of work. No more loan officers, no more, real estate folks that are handling negotiations. It's all handled by smart contract, right? So I believe that we have a very narrow window for people to start taking control of their own lives and creating a little bit of freedom for themselves. And I believe the best way for them to do that is to, number one, constantly be working on building rare and specialized skills so that they can command a high income. Secondly, is to control the source of their income through entrepreneurship and investment. All of the rules are set up to benefit those people at the expense of the working class man. So don't be one of those people. And last but not least, to make your income mobile so that if your government, if your state becomes too tyrannical, you aren't left with the choice of, I guess I have to either shoot the guy coming. I guess I got to either shoot the guy coming to inoculate my kid, or I got to let him put the needle in the arm. You can at least leave and your income can travel with you. Okay. Now, I wholeheartedly believe it's not a line for me. I believe it, and I believe it's coming, and I believe it's going to hurt a lot of people. And you can see it this week, especially how quickly totalitarianism was at your door. And I see all the people who are like, what are we supposed to do? I'm like, I don't know, dude. I don't have your problems. I don't have your problems because I spent the last 15 years ensuring that I didn't have those problems, that I did all of these things. And if I really believe those things, and I believe time is limited and it's the most valuable resource we have, it's non-renewable, non-replenishable, then I have the moral responsibility to try and convince as many people as possible to turn away from things that will not create freedom for themselves and to focus all their time, effort, and energy on the things that will. And so that's why I love Dave.
Okay. That was the
Mark,
that was
I need to know this, but what did Jason have like in his contract? And like, I don't even think that it's a contract that like Mark would have him. So I figure that Jason, like going on a show is just like, this is my contract. Like, what are you talking about? You're coming on my, and it's like, no. This is a contract for you. My phone's going to fucking stay on. I've got shit going on at all hours. I'm not putting it on silent. You can go fuck yourself. Like, I just want to know.
That's definitely how Jason would sell it if you asked him, but it's 100% just he completely forgot to turn it off.
I fucking love that guy so much. I can't even.
It's funny, when I first heard it, and I obviously I was watching it live, so I couldn't go back and check. When I first heard it, and then when I went and listened to it again for the first time, I thought he was saying sorry because he caught himself saying you're gonna have to shoot the guy, and I thought he was like, saying like, oh, I guess I can't, but. I was like,
yeah.
Jason wouldn't have any qualms saying that.
Right. That's exactly what I thought the first time I heard it versus now I saw him reach for his phone.
He was like,
don't say something, Mark.
It's like it's that assassin hand, you know, as soon as he hears talking about shooting a guy, he's like, oh yeah. But so that was, I think that really encapsulated the like, that's the essence of the wealth, power, and influence message, just in general, not even with respect to the LPMC, just in general. That's the essence of the wealth, power, and influence message. And then here at King Pill, this is our, like, we believe the same thing. And so then on the side of on Jason's side, basically the focus of that show is really getting into the technicals of how you can actually go about doing that. And then here, Steven and I tend to be much more the thinkers than the doers. So I mean, we both do, but we also like to think. And Jason thinks, but he also is much more of a doer. See, here's the cognitive functions, the Jungian psychology that's clanging around up in there. But so this here, I think, like, I just want to take that clip and just like staple it to my forehead on the internet, metaphorically speaking. Just any time that somebody asks, well, like, you know, why can't we just get into political parties? Why not do, you know, what's the message, or what do you guys actually have? Boom, this is the message. This is where your focus should be. And I think the point that this really answered well, which is something that we've heard a lot, especially lately, is, well, okay, I see your guys' point, but why can't you just do both?
Right.
You know, why not do both of them? And he has a great analogy in there. It's, why can't you keep eating shit and just work out? You know, well, I mean, you can, but that's that. If you're still doing that, then you clearly aren't actually prioritizing your health. You know, if you're actually prioritizing your health, you'll stop eating shit and start working out. See, for me, I'm all or nothing. So I just eat like shit and don't work out. And so then it's like, well, hey, I'm completely consistent. And then eventually someday down the road, tomorrow, I'll flip both switches at the same time, and then I'll eat well and work out. But there's no point in doing just one, because you're just working against yourself. It's right. You might as well. What is it that Ron Swanson says? He says, never half-ass two things. You have to whole-ass one thing.
See, I think that working against themselves is something that libertarians enjoy psychologically. I came to that conclusion a while ago. And it was actually like, when I was thinking about this, like the caucus takeover, and like I've said before, I think that there's a comfort in putting yourself as far behind the 8 ball as possible. You get all the satisfaction of sort of having a challenge, but there's really no consequence to it, because even if you take over, even if your caucus like takes over like a tiny ineffectual party, you're really not expected to do anything. You know, but you can you can LARP a bunch of stuff. You can talk a bunch of shit basically, and there's no real cost to you personally. Well, you don't think there's a cost to you personally, depending on how far you go with it. But the point that we have is that, man, there might really be a cost to you, not just to your you personally, but also your ideas, not just to your, where you want to see society go, but also maybe to you personally. I think that's where Matthew's going with it. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, Popular Liberty said the joy is in. He said there's something in the contrarian mindset that is counterproductive to its own ends. The joy is in complaining about stuff, not in fixing it.
Right, and that's why you'll always just only see them pointing out hypocrisy. Whenever they see it. And aside from the fact that I don't know what there's a lot of questions I have about like what's the upbringing of like a lot of these people where there's this kind of shock of just like, man, politics is or like in a two-party system, you have to pick between two things and neither one of them are my favorite. It's just like where'd you fucking come from, man? Like, I don't know. Did you like exclusively watch Disney movies? I don't. It's so weird because I think like past a certain age or development or whatever it is, that becomes, if you live enough life, it's just like, oh yeah, man, there's a couple things we can do and we just got to figure out which one sucks the least. And so this is not like getting the nitty gritty of like, oh, well, should we even participate in the political system? But just the notion that a situation exists where there are two things that, are both non-ideal, sort of being like an affront to you. That sends up some fucking flags for me about what kind of Disney ass upbringing you came from.
Well, it's interesting that I first started kind of thinking along these lines when I listened to Dave talk to Nick Fuentes. See, there you go. Nick Fuentes is a radicalizer. Mm-hmm. I've listened to Nick Fuentes, I think, the 2 times that he's talked to Dave. I think that's the only only of his stuff I've ever listened to. But he would do this thing where he was talking to him and he would talk about, well, libertarians. He would talk about Beltway people like they're libertarians. He would call them libertarians. And I was like, how does this I don't understand this connection that they're making. And I've seen other guys that do this too, like David Riaboy, or there's other right wing, like the kind of like new right sort of guys that will refer to Beltway Republican squishes as libertarians. And I didn't understand why they kept doing that, because I was like, very clearly these people have like total like antipathy for each other. They don't get along at all, and they're like very consciously aware of the fact that they despise each other. So they're not advocating for the same policy. So how do you treat these as the same people? And what I realized is it's because they both create the same outcomes. They're creating the same outcomes just from different directions. And actually they need each other. Pedro Gonzalez is another one. They need they need each other to bounce off of, to cancel each other out, basically. And they've gotten trapped in a this is why I'm trying not to get too confrontational, because I've been thinking more and more about how many people like this are not consciously choosing to have the effect that they're having. They've just gotten sucked into a certain way of thinking that while you're within it, it seems completely rational. It seems to make a ton of sense. But if you break out of it, if you manage to break out of it, you can see a very clear line between when I used to think like that and how I think now. And then it's very different. And so I feel for people that think like this, as long as they're not being an asshole to me. I feel for them. And I don't want to, I want to communicate to them. They're the ones that I want to persuade that they have complete contempt for the Beltway people, and they serve as pawns for them. Because the fact that the libertarian... That was loud. The fact that the libertarian experience, when applied to the real world, the fact that it has no clear praxis and no clear real world evidence of what it looks like in a compelling way that draws people and that people are incentivized to participate in. The fact that it has no real world manifestation means that it ultimately is a suit that anybody can wear, because it becomes the weapon that can be used against anybody. Like you're violating freedom. Freedom and liberty are things that can be construed to mean just about anything from anybody's perspective. So it becomes a tool that naive people, the naive people become the tool. that's used by the more scheming Machiavellian beltway types. And so I guess when I see people who like I sympathize with them. Like I remember when I saw the world through your eyes, and now I'm trying to get you to see the world through my eyes and recognize the fact that you aren't having the impact on the world that you think you are, and doing exactly what you're doing, but more, isn't going to change that. So when you say, what was it? Someone put it in here that the reference to something you said. It was a quote of something you said. Past a
Be
certain
a
age of
consistent
development.
homosexual. Oh,
Oh
sorry,
yeah,
what?
yeah. Yeah. It was past a certain age of development.
Age or development. Yeah, and I realized when I said it, I was like, "Ooh, that was kind of twatty." but because I mean, really, it is. I think, especially part of the issue here too is like a lot of the face of like the Mises Caucus in terms of like their online presence. I would guess is probably like younger guys, and even if it's not younger guys, it's like developmentally younger guys, even if they're 30. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to even be shitty.
Yeah. I know what you mean. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying not to be combative. I'm trying not to be insulting. I'm trying to describe what I'm seeing. And I'm trying to describe it to people because I'm like, I don't want you to keep doing this thing that is this way.
Yeah.
So like, how do you do that? How do you tell someone stop doing this? It makes you look bad without insulting them.
Yeah. For Poppy, he's saying much younger. I'm saying they behave like guys who are under 24, 25, even if they're not under 24, 25.
It's kind of the frat boy ethos.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah. And it's kind of like this thing here where, like the reaction to either Biden's speeches or any of this like LARPy shit where you just see people talking about guns and doing this and doing that. Let's take Biden's speech or whatever. I view this as like you are walking in some kind of downtownish area. You're walking with a young lady, and there's a group of hyenas. Maybe we'll call them, young gentlemen who are not going to behave like gentlemen, and they're going to say something to you loud enough that you can hear it, either about you or about the girl or whatever. And as you, from the age of like 19 up to the age of 24, 25ish or whatever, your reaction when a group of dudes say something to you when you're alone walking with a girl is inclined to like one course of action, and then after a certain point it becomes very inclined towards another course of action. And so I don't know, like I know people who have lived enough life, you can kind of reflect and just say, oh man, I can't believe that something like that would have bothered me. I would have thought about tossing the girl in the middle of the road and just like taking on these three dudes that I don't know if they have knives or guns, or like they obviously said something to incite me for a reason. Yeah. And this is the reaction that they're looking for. And I see Biden's speech. If you listen to Biden's speech, it's like someone wrote that speech. They wrote it in a particular way. It was obviously written to be somewhat confrontational. It's a group of hyenas saying something for you loud enough that you can hear it, in expecting a reaction from some of you. And I see a lot of the libertarian types, to kind of continue with my metaphor from earlier here, as just people on the sideline saying, oh man, you're going to let him say that? I can't believe you're going to let him say that. You should do something. Yeah. It's just like, this is the desired result. Like, I know that's very comforting to think that these people are dumb, who are sort of, ruling over us or whatever, and they shouldn't be ruling over us and all that stuff. And we're so much smarter. But they're not bad at ruling.
They're very good at keeping themselves in power.
You can tell because they're still in power. Right. They're the ones behind the podium that everyone's taking pictures of.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and so yeah, it's just like, man, I wish there was some mechanism to for any good that is happening, you know, in the Libertarian Party or whatever. And I don't know, but man, if you could somehow mitigate the immature reactions of people kind of being the mouthpiece or being the face that everyone sees on social media and stuff like that.
And I want to like, when we're saying immature, we're not, this is why you said, like, you reference development, because this isn't like, oh, you're like, we're not talking about like telling dirty jokes or like that kind of thing. We're not talking about like shit posting online. We're talking about like that I think that analogy you used was just so fantastic, that you're out walking with a girl, and when you're a kid and these guys like come at you, you're going to be much more likely to go engage with them. You're going to be much more confrontational, because partly it's because you're more insecure. You're more like, oh, I have to prove myself. You have to bluster. As you get older, you realize that you winning has a very small payoff. You losing has an absolutely massive cost.
Yeah.
So that's it. It's much better to
even if you
save
win,
your
you
pride.
lose.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
there's so many in like it's just like a life experience thing. I mean, I know people who are
street smarts.
Maybe they might still be in jail. I don't know, but like for like fighting, and you know they won, but like, you know, the guy fell back and like hit his head and fucking died. You know, it's just like, and he's in jail, so he won, and he's in jail. Like I don't know, you know, it's just like, you know, there's hospitals and there's jail, prisons, you know, maybe in some cases there's going to jail. There's all kinds of things, you know, getting robbed or whatever. But like whatever it is, you know, these, you know, in this metaphor, these people are saying something to elicit a particular reaction for a particular reason.
Right.
So, I don't know. At the very least, they're going to try to rob you. Or not the very least. I don't know. I'm thinking in my own metaphor. But like there's any number of bad, and unless you've at least provided like some evidence of the fact that you've considered any of the bad things that can happen, and that's I think what we're not hearing.
Right.
At all.
Right. So what's happening then is even for the people who do have, like in real life, maybe they have the street smarts. Well, none of this is happening in real life. All of this is all happening on the internet. Like there's people who go out and they organize and they get together and they do stuff in real life, but that's like the minority of the interactions. The vast majority of the interactions, it's happening on the internet. So the feedback loops are different on the internet. Like you can get away with stuff on the internet that you wouldn't get away with in real life. But that doesn't mean that you should turn around and do that in real life, because you won't get away with it in real life. So there may be people who actually have the street smarts, who actually have the maturity or whatever, but they're, without even realizing it, they're LARPing online. Like they're doing this stuff because there's like, hey, there's no cost to it, so I can talk a bigger game. I can puff myself up even more online because there's no price to pay. And the people who are not savvy enough to make this connection, to realize that, they're not going to be able to make this distinction between real life and online. And as we move forward, the distinction between real life and online is becoming narrower and narrower and narrower. There's this new, do you see this new TV show where it's kind of like it's like The Voice mixed with The Masked Singer, except it's all like augmented or like virtual reality. They're like holograms that are being projected there, because the person is wearing the suit, like the guy in what do you call it? What's the like Gollum on Lord of the Rings, when Andy Serkis, he wore the thing with the dots all over him. And I don't even know what this shit's called, but someone's wearing something like that. So it's projecting like a digital image of them up on the stage. And then there's like, they're interacting with the crowd and everything. It's totally this crossed up real world VR thing. Super trippy. And if this is available and happening on that level, like on just for like a shitty evening TV show, you know that the actual technology is already far more advanced than that. So this mashup between the real world and the digital space, it's getting mushier and mushier. So people who are basically, the definition of Fed posting is expanding. It's going to keep expanding and keep expanding. And we're very, very close to libertarian rhetoric becoming Fed posting.
Oh, sure.
And you can say, oh, shouldn't be that way, or this is not tyranny, or you can bluster about it all you want. But the fact of the matter is that all of this, like, get the LPMC together and let's take over the LP and we're going to just message our way out of this and we're just going to wake people up and spread the message and there's time to turn this around. We are light years beyond that, my friends. That isn't even remotely within the realm of possibility now.
You're just gonna, yeah. You know, if you kind of play out this like dystopian future, and you think that this is like a real possibility, basically you're getting a bunch of people who haven't thought things out fully, on like more lists than they may already be on or wouldn't have been on. So I guess we don't look at it as an automatic good. So if I think of myself and I'm, you know, wondering, all right, well, would I prefer to kind of know that, you know, everything that I'm seeing in front of me is bullshit and, you know, the just being awake, I guess. I don't know. You know, someone woke me up at some point. I think I'm probably in the awake group. Man, this summer I wish I wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, it just seems like life would be great. I don't know. I'm told that life is not great, but it's a matter of like, it's like the and now what after being awake. And I think the idea is that if you use a political platform, I agree that you can get yourself in a position where you can reach more people. I think that's true. But I think using the political platform, not for, you know, political ends, but, you know, for waking people, you're going to get a bunch of people who run in the direction of politics and continue to put themselves there. And Dave said it in that debate. He was talking about how he basically said, you know, this thing is going to collapse and we can think about what happens after it, which is, I believe, a different mess. That's really different than what's happening. Mm-hmm. You know, I think that was kind of like Ron Paul's sort of behind the scenes ideas too. I don't know if he said it in his speeches, but, you know, this is unsustainable and headed for a financial collapse. And, you know, we can hope that it's as peaceful as possible. And then whatever results after it, we can hope that it's something better. And, you know, maybe it will be. But I think if Dave was going to commit to getting the biggest platform to tell people that this thing is headed for a collapse, and that the collapse is going to hurt some people, and you want to position yourself to not be hurt. I mean, that is I think that's a worthy endeavor. Mm-hmm. And if your whole thing is predicated on like telling people the truth, if that's what you think the truth is, then just tell people the truth. I think, you know, So I guess wake people up, I guess, but then then what, I don't think is sort of dragging them into this thing of either like LARPing some kind of like revolution, you know, like that's just that's like a big no. Getting involved in politics, I think that even requires real careful navigation. And I don't know if being part of the Libertarian Party, where it's just like such an easy target to just like market as, you know, a bunch of white supremacists or, you know, whatever you can do. I mean, they can do that with anybody, you know, but like, I don't know. I think people like Tho at least have like some kind of like praxis for political action. You know, maybe Michael Heiss has a really good one, you know, I don't know, but I don't see how a powerless political party can really have a good practice for making any kind of difference. But, you know, I'm open to being wrong about that. But just the idea of waking somebody up, it's whatever happens to them after that, you know. And I don't think doing it from like a political platform, like, I think there's more of a trade-off there than it might be worth.
Right. That was the big thing that I took away. Like it seemed where they wound up, where Dave and Jason wound up kind of flattening out and sort of, they got to kind of like an agree to disagree point. And this was an area where I would have taken a different tack than Jason did. And I think it's because I think I view this subject differently than he did. The point that he was willing to concede to Dave was that spreading the message is inherently good. Like, that's a good thing. And that, well, at one point Jason said he didn't. In fact, like, at first Jason was like, no, I don't think there's any value in it. I can't remember if that was in the clip that I played or at another point. But then later on, he basically agreed. Yeah, well, yeah, it's a good thing. Well, at the point once he'd done that, then it was like the debate's not going to go beyond this point. And it's not supposed to be a debate, but you know what I mean. Like, once he did that, that's the point where Dave's going to be like, there you go. Well, okay, you think it's a good thing, so I'm going to do my thing. You do your thing. Agree to disagree. You know, and they may the best man win or whatever. Like, so, and like, our position here is that spreading the message is itself bad. It's actually a bad thing. I didn't put that in the title, but I believe that, and it's for the reasons that Steven's pointing out here, that the things that you have to do in order to spread the message, if you're making spread the message like the end all be all, not like a secondhand effect, or not like an also thing that you're doing, but like, this is the core. This is our full focus, is we need to pour every asset, every bit of resources and capital into spreading this message, get this on as many people as possible, all that sort of thing. When you make that your focus, then the things that you're required to do in order to make that happen don't come at no cost. I tweeted something this week. I said that it's funny that the people who are like they consider themselves like the experts on economics, they for some reason have just completely forgotten what an opportunity cost is. There's an opportunity cost to putting any time, effort, or energy into quote unquote spreading the message. You're going to pay that opportunity cost. Now, maybe you're someone who's already in a good spot. You're someone who's already like, hey, I've already, I control the source of my income. I made that income mobile. I can go anywhere in the world I want. I've got a completely diversified set of resources. I've got property. I've got a home. I've got my family put together. As soon as you're someone like that, like Clockwork Industries here, he said, I'd consider politics when I'm a 50-plus-year-old millionaire. Future kids are out of school, and I'm trying to make my local Covenant community better. Right there, that's the person who our message isn't targeted at that person. We're not trying to talk. If you match that bill, then you don't have to listen to anything that we say, unless you just are interested in what we have to say for whatever reason. But those are the people who can actually make a difference when they get into politics. And those people, when they get into politics, they don't get into the electoral side unless they're the ones running for office themselves. And even then, when they're doing it, it's generally for self-aggrandizement. They're kind of like, it's for self-aggrandizement primarily, and they're going to try to have a good impact with their self-aggrandizement. Those people, when they get into politics, they get into the lobbying side, the side that actually changes things, that actually makes a difference. So those are the people who can and I would say should get involved in political action, working toward the type of end that we all are, that we would all desire. But the problem is that this sort of start the Ron Paul Revolution 2.0 thing doesn't just appeal to those people. In fact, it largely doesn't appeal to those people. The overwhelming majority of the numbers that will be involved in a movement like a Ron Paul Revolution 2.0, the overwhelming majority of those people are going to be young people with debt who don't have they're not like entrepreneurs. They don't own their own business. They aren't someone who's like has an independent source of income. They're going to be like some sort of employer or some sort of employee. That's going to be the overwhelming majority of people. Now, there's going to be lots of people who are like, well, I don't fit that bill, and here's my Tom, Dick, and Harry, my friends. We all are different. There's lots of people in the world, and you could give me 100. You could give me 100,000 people like you, and you would still be the minority. That's the point. The point is that in order to have a movement like this, you have to appeal to the people who can't afford to be in that movement. And that's where the term predatory came from. That's where that came from. That in order to make a movement like this work, like Dave agreed with Jason, he said, yeah, like I'm I've got my own independent source of wealth. I've made my wealth, power, and influence, and now I'm using it. That's great. That's what you do. You make your wealth, power, and influence, and then you use it. But the way that he's using it is going to require people who don't have that to forfeit, to sacrifice their time for this venture. And that's where, no, you can't do both. You can't secure your own wealth and liberty and also go spread the message. You can't do both at the same time. One, you're going to half-ass both of them. And we're at a point in time where you should not be half-assing the process of securing your own liberty. You can't afford that. If you're someone who needs to secure your own liberty, that needs to be your focus. So that's the one point. The one point is, no, you can't do both. But now let's leave that aside. Let's say we're only dealing with the people. Did you have anything more to say on that specific point?
I did, but I've got to go make my wealth, power, and influence
that's right.
happen.
Okay, yeah, and I got to get wrapped up here shortly, so I'll just.
But enjoy, boys. I want you to listen very closely to what Matthew has to say for the second half because it's very important.
See you, buddy. Okay, so let me see if I can remember what I was saying. So, the first point is that you can't just do both, and trying to do both means that you're not going to put enough time, effort, or energy into the one thing that matters the most, which is securing your own liberty. You have to secure your liberty before you can help anybody else secure theirs. So that's point number one. Point number two is, as the title of the show says today, why spreading the message of liberty is counterproductive. And here's why. This notion that we need to wake people up. People need to be awakened. They need to realize the nature of this system, and they need to help us reduce the size and scope of the state. There's multiple fallacious assumptions throughout that. Perhaps the biggest one being that the size and scope of the state has anything to do with the will of the people. There's a sort of an elaborate remote connection between the two of them, but the connection doesn't work such that you can just rally a bunch of people together and bully the state into backing down. That, like, by definition, that doesn't work. That's actually, here's where it's counterproductive. It's not just unproductive, it's counterproductive. Because by doing that, by rallying a bunch of people and trying to bully the state back, trying to forcibly reduce the size of the state, you are presenting yourself as a threat to the apex predator. You're advertising yourself as a threat to the apex predator. But not just that, you're not just a threat, you're a powerless threat. So you're more like a mosquito than a lion because of the nature of the beast that you're opposing. So now you are actually advertising and blustering from a weak point, from a point of weakness. You lack wealth, power, and influence. Like, almost by definition. If you're taking this route, it's because you don't have the wealth, power, and influence to just secure your wealth, secure your liberty for yourself. So the idea that, oh, we just need to just wake people up, it's flawed from the outset, just from that point alone. How many points can we go through here? Another point is that the notion when you're approaching people, hey, listen, you need to wake up. You got to wake up. You got to see what's going on. You got to wake up. That's not the most appealing message to a lot of people, generally speaking. There's a certain category of person for whom that might be effective, but it's not the type of person that libertarians are generally interested in targeting. Like the Alex Jones constituency, he's got a huge constituency, and obviously that appeals to them. But those aren't the people that libertarians are out trying to reach. They're not going after Alex Jones voters. Or I guess it would be Alex Jones audience voters. So the notion that you're going to approach people and be like, listen, you need to wake up, and that people are going to accept that, well, okay, well, how would they accept that? They might accept that if you're a very credible person. If you are associated with an organization that's very credible. Like if Elon Musk came out tomorrow and was like, "Listen, you've got to wake up." I mean, he does that, and even he it isn't super effective for when he talks about like the effects of depopulation and that kind of thing. But if someone on that level said, "Listen, you need to wake up," that would get a lot of people's attention. As we said, like even if you get lots of people's attention, then what? You know, that's the big question. Then what? You know, you got lots of people's attention, and so now what are they going to do? Well, we're just going to go charge. We're just going to go like storm the castle. That's you know that's not effective. Or we're going to just work on things in the local level. Well, you don't need a big national campaign. You don't need Ron Paul Revolution 2.0. In fact, a Ron Paul Revolution 2.0 is actually going to compromise your efforts at the local level. Because now you're just advertising to all of your enemies, hey, here we are, here's what we believe, here's where we're coming, and here's how we're going to do it. And that's counterproductive. But I think ultimately, at the base of it, the most the most fundamental point here is that when you're coming out to spread the message of liberty, what you're implying is that if only people believed something different, if only people believed what I believe, everything would be better. That's inherent in it, that I already believe this, and if other people believed it, then the world would be better. Source? What is the evidence that that's the case? How has believing this changed your life for the better? How has being awake enhanced your own liberty? The vast majority of people who hear this, or who I don't mean hear me, but I mean hear this spread the message of liberty message, the vast majority of people who hear that, or the vast majority of people, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. The vast majority of people who are spreading that message are not someone who's already in a position of, hey, look at this liberty that I have. Look how independently wealthy and completely mobile I am. All the people who fit that bill aren't involved in politics at all. The people who fit that bill, the people who have given themselves liberty, who are free to come and go as they please, as Jason defines in the video. I really encourage you guys to go watch the video. At one point, he defines what he believes liberty to be. And I don't remember the exact wording of it, but it's basically being able to do what I want, when I want, with who I want, how I want, for as long as I want, wherever I want, or something along those lines. You can have that now. You could begin the process. You can't have it now if you don't have it, but you could begin the process of earning that. You also could have it if you just change what you want. If suddenly you just said, I want everything that as my life is right now, you could have that. If you just like flip that switch in your brain and you decided to want everything that you already have, then you would have liberty. You might not have the definition of liberty that somebody else has given you, but from your own perspective, you could have that because you could define liberty for yourself. Ultimately, libertarians that are trying to spread this message, they've said liberty, property rights, state, that whole thing. They're trying to force their definition of liberty on other people. Now, I like their definition of liberty. I want other people to share that definition of liberty. But other people sharing that definition of liberty isn't going to make that happen. Changing people's minds isn't going to make the state go away. So if you're going to go change people's minds, you need to change their mind to something they can actually do. You need to point them in a new direction. But if your new direction is just get involved in the political party, you've compounded the problem. This is now the fiddling around the edges. You're injecting energy into the system. You're getting more people involved in politics. And you're presenting the state with an enemy. You're presenting the state with not only an enemy, but like the best enemy they could ever dream of. Someone that they can paint as like heartless Nazi monsters who have the most asinine, impossible to comprehend beliefs to the majority of people within the Overton window. And also, they're completely and utterly powerless. They don't hold any institutions of actual power. So you can paint them as a great big boogeyman while never actually being threatened by them. If you understand the way that the cathedral operates, the emergent network of institutions that function as a conspiracy just because of the baked in incentive structure of the relationships in the network, if you understand how that operates and how they manufacture consent, how they implant ideas and beliefs, how they create reality for people, if you understand that, then you would understand that just trying to make lots of people see it for what it is not going to actually change that dynamic. In order to change that dynamic, you have to get people checked out altogether from the system and ported over onto a parallel system that functions completely orthogonally. You have to create a parallel economy. People are like, oh, that's how you're just going to create a whole freaking parallel economy when you could just go get involved in your political party. That's exactly it. You don't want to do the hard work. You don't want to consider the possibility that we're at that point in history where we need to build a brand new fucking economy. We need new institutions altogether. You're not going to save these old institutions. You're not going to rehabilitate them. You're not going to return them to their original principles because their original principles are what got them to where they are today. This is the consequence of liberalism. It's running the way it's supposed to. And when you want to take over the LP and try to stop it and try to reduce the size of the state, you are playing the game. The entire purpose of the game is bait people into getting involved to try to stop things and use them as fuel to advance the system. It's been working like this for centuries. There's even a spirit to this that has been functioning this way for millennia. The reason why I oppose and I'm trying to talk people out of getting involved with the LP is because it means you have to set your sights so low while also putting yourself at risk, both from opportunity cost and from the explicit cost of being involved, being a avowed opponent of the regime in a collapsing empire. A collapsing empire that's talking about mandating injections for people to be able to buy food. And like that's what's happening right now. That's the world that we live in. And you're talking about trying to take over a political party so you could preach a message to people. It's like a suicide cult. It's madness. And when I hear people talk about this, I'm like, they don't even realize. I know people in the chat. I know you guys are aligned with me. I can tell. That's why you listen to the show. We've driven most of the other people away. That was intentional. That was conscious. We're trying to create an echo chamber here. But the heart of the people who want to get involved in a political party, I sincerely believe that the majority of them mean well. And there's like James Gentleman who said that he does it because it's like a social club. Like it's a thing that he can go do. He's not sold out for the ends of it. He's going to go get involved with people and hang out because this is his hobby. Cool. Fine. Knock yourself out. I don't have a problem with that. But I know James. I know where he's at. I know what he's doing. I know what he's working toward. And he's using what he's doing to advance his own celebrity. He's building his own thing, making himself independently wealthy by creating an audience and talking to them and socializing and turning his social network into a financial opportunity. If that's what the LPMC was about, cool, good for you guys. And again, I want to emphasize that if you're all bought into the LPMC and there's nothing I could say to change your mind, I don't give a rat's ass. You're not the person I'm talking to. I'm using the internet and I can't customize my message and deliver it only to exactly the people I'm trying to talk to. So I'm going to put this out where everybody can hear it. And if you disagree with it, knock yourselves out. I don't care. I'm trying to talk to specific people. And I'm trying to pull people away from going down this path if they can't afford it. And I think the majority of people can't afford it. So this is where I would have differed from Jason. I would have said explicitly that spreading the message is not a good thing. It's not inherently good to wake people up. Having more people understand, like, what good is it if you wake people up and the exact same thing that was going to happen to them before still happens to them? What good is it being awake if you're just as subjected to the system as anybody who's not? If you haven't made yourself independent from the system, you're not awake. You think you're awake. And I think ultimately that's what's happening here, is that people aren't trying to spread liberty. They're trying to spread their ideas because they like their ideas and they want more people to have their ideas. And they've convinced themselves that it's for a good reason. It's for a good cause. And I mean that sincerely. I think that they have convinced themselves of that because I was convinced of that. But you aren't actually trying to help people. You think that you are, but what you're offering to people will not help them. In fact, as this continues, as we get deeper and deeper into this crisis, people are going to start turning on people who are offering a message like libertarians. They're going to start turning on them. How could you have known this was going to happen? And you put yourself in this situation. You didn't tell me what was going to happen. You didn't give me the course for getting out of where I was. They're going to resent them and turn against them. It's not going to be rational. It doesn't have to be fair. You're not going to argue people out of it. Ultimately, this spread the message stuff is just masturbatory. It's people who want their ideas to be popular because when they turn the TV on, they want to hear art and entertainment that spreads their values to them, not values that they don't share or that they don't care about. That's at the root of all of this. When you realize that, when you get to that, now you're into the culture. Now you recognize that you just want to hear your ideas within the culture. You want people to share, and you've created all kinds of different rationalizations and justifications for why that is, so that you can tell yourself a bigger story than just, oh, I just want my ideas to be popular like everybody else's ideas are popular. That's why they're mimicking the behavior of the people whose ideas are popular, the way that they saw those people. Well, these people acted this way. They got involved in activism and they did these social campaigns, and look, all the corporations started working for them, and they took over this part of the government and that part of the government. They gradually just kept selling their message. They kept evangelizing everybody, and sooner or later, look, they got all this power. So now we'll go do that. We'll go evangelize people, and our message is so good that it'll beat their message because it's the marketplace of ideas, right? All you have to do is just give me the platform. Just get me on the stage, give me the platform, and I'll sell the message, and it'll be good. Everyone will like it when they hear it from me. Everyone will like it when they hear it from our delegated spokesman. He's even better. He's even better than I am. I'm just going to delegate away. Just tell me what to do. What do I do? Go get people to come to this rally. I'm there. Come on. All right, let's go. Let's go. You see this dynamic that's developing. People are like, well, I'm not the best one to communicate it. This guy, he communicates my message better than I do. So I'm just going to delegate my own responsibility to him. I'm going to wait for him to tell me what to do, and then I'm going to go do that. Or he's going to delegate me to go to one of his delegates, and I'll listen to that. See, the hierarchy just developed itself. This is the nature of the human society. This is why the state will form immediately. You could snap your fingers, get rid of the state, and in a week there would be a state. And if you don't have a good understanding of how they develop and why they're inevitable and why you have to embrace them as reality and move forward under the assumption that they exist and that they are always going to exist, and mounting a campaign against them trying to get them to stop existing is never going to work. Once you recognize that, then you've broken down enough. When you have the anarcho-capitalist understanding of the nature of the state, when you've reached that baseline, and then you break through that floor and you go to the next level below and you realize that not only is the state inevitable, but in fact, it is an institution that we are called to respect. When you reach that point, that's when the process of the king pilling can begin. I'm not saying the state has to be, I'm not saying you have to support it. You have to respect it. Respect it as a legitimate authority. The people who want to go out and challenge it and directly confront it, they don't truly respect it as an authority. Because they don't respect it, they will be crushed by it. Whether directly in confrontation with it or indirectly when it steamrolls their income class and their industry disappears. And they're left helpless. And now they have to go get some sort of welfare, some sort of benefits, or go drive themselves out in the middle of nowhere and live off the land because that's the only option that's available to them. If that's what you want to do, knock yourselves out, man. I would love to go live off the land. I'd love to have that constitution. I'd love to have that desire to go do that. I'll get close to that. As in respecting the devil so as not to underestimate. Yes. And beyond that, now this is where you get into the Christian side of things. I can't find a single point in the corpus of Christianity where there is a justification for revolutionary activity. I can't find any justification for it whatsoever. All throughout Christianity, all throughout the Bible, rather, all throughout the entire spirit of it is a consistent message, which is respect authority, submit to authority. Authority is good. Authority is appointed by God, and you must submit to it. That doesn't mean you have to accept every single thing that it does, but it means that it was appointed by God, and you are called to respect it as an authority. So if you want to change it, if you want it to behave differently, you have to understand how it works, and you have to do things that will actually make it function differently. You have to look at the actual effects of your actions. I can tell you right now, starting a Ron Paul Revolution 2.0 will not result in less tyranny. You might get less state because the power will be transferred to something else that's not a state. And it won't even be accountable in the way that a state is. If your goal is less tyranny, what you want is responsible leadership. What you want is accountable leadership. And if you don't see any, you got to start creating it yourself. There's a big absence of leadership, of healthy, wise leadership in these communities. And that's what got Steven talking about doing a show like this. Is he realized, he's sitting here like, all these people talk this really big game. Oh, I can't believe that people are just laying down and taking this, says the guy who's laying down taking it. There's no leadership. There's nobody presenting actual tangible options, things that we can do to actually address this, like actually taking it seriously. There's nobody doing that. It's just people parroting rhetoric. And waking up one day and realizing, oh shit, Tyranny happened upon us suddenly, and we didn't know what to do. So we just all kind of looked at each other and was like, hey, you do something. I don't fault people for it. I was in the same boat. I was a diehard ANCAP. All this stuff started happening, and my first thought was, oh, state, get the state to go away. Ah. And eventually I woke up. Just put it that way. I got to peace out, boys. I appreciate you, and girls, for the girls that are here. Appreciate you guys. Share this show. Find somebody who you think would like it, and share it with them. If you think they wouldn't like it, don't share it just to get trolls here, or don't share it just to make a point to someone. I don't want that kind of. Share it with someone who you think would benefit from it. You can join our supporting listeners group. Subscribestar.com/kingpilled. Follow me on Twitter @RealKingPilled. Follow Steven on Twitter @Messina Inc. And PlumaverdecBD.com. Go buy yourself some CBD. Support our show. Support Carlos and Vanessa. Carlos has been in the chat. Appreciate you, buddy. What's up? What's up, Ken Thoreau? 2-Bit Podcast. What's up, guys? Good to see you, Marshall, Josiah. I know I didn't get all of you guys here today, but I appreciate all of you, and thanks for showing up. We will see you on Thursday.